Hi, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Zoom events is new to us, so thank you for being patient. My name is Alexa Tinsley. I am the Director of Programs here at Jett Foundation. Thank you all for joining us today for our Rare Disease Day event on this very rare day, February 29th. We are very excited to have you all here. Like many others today, we are helping raise awareness for individuals with rare diseases and their families. Today, we recognize that our power is in numbers and we truly are stronger together. While our overarching topic continues to be thriving with Duchenne, this year we are highlighting members of our community across rare diseases who are living life to the fullest, fulfilling their dreams and conquering goals. We're so excited for you to be a part of our event today and hearing from 5 amazing individuals, and actually really 7, which includes our 2 facilitators, who will be sharing their experiences and giving insight into their journey. Thank you so much for being here, and a huge thank you to all of our sponsors here, who you should see, for helping us make this event possible. Before I hand it off to Kyle and Sean, I just want to mention a few things. This webinar is being recorded, and I did make sure I pressed the record button, and it'll also be streaming live to Facebook. If for any reason you aren't able to stay on for the entire event, or you know anybody that was interested in this event and wasn't able to attend, it will be recorded in our library of resources on our website, our YouTube, and it will also live in Facebook videos for you to watch later. We also have closed captioning available for you. So if you click, there's a CC icon on the bottom of your screen. You can choose to have the subtitles on your screen, or a full transcript is also available for you as well. If the font is too small, like it is for me, you can also click on the arrow next to the CC, choose settings, and you should be able to make the font larger on your screen. Today's event will last until 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be leaving some time at the end of the panel portion for you to ask questions to our panelists and facilitators. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box and we'll try to get to as many as we can. We will be prioritizing questions coming through Zoom in the Q&A box. We do our best to look at the chat and we do our best to look at Facebook and answer those questions, but we will prioritize those through Zoom. There also is a slight delay between Zoom and Facebook, but we will, like I said, do our best to get to any questions that anybody on Facebook has as well. With that, I'm going to hand it off to our amazing moderators who are back for another year, Sean Baumstark and Kyle Bryant. I can't speak today, hosts of the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. So thank you, Sean and Kyle, for being a part of this for another year. We appreciate you for all you do, and I will hand it off to you.
All right. Thanks so much, Alexa. We have had an incredible time getting to know everybody in the past few years. We're so excited to be back. Sean and I live with Friedreich's ataxia, a rare neuromuscular disease causing progressive damage to just about everything except our cognition. We became friends shortly after Sean.
Except my cognition. It might mess up Kyle's.
That's up to debate. So we met when Sean was diagnosed. He reached out to me, and then we went to lunch. We found out that we both share a particular level of grit and desire to avoid letting FA dictate who we are and what we can do. After being the subjects of a documentary film capturing our bike race across America, we realized the principles in that film were a perfect platform for ongoing conversations. We launched the Two Disabled Dudes podcast in 2016 with weekly episodes where we draw attention to deficiencies in living with a disability. We promote advocacy and encourage our listeners to live beyond whatever circumstances they're up against in their life. We're really excited to be here with you and can't wait for the conversation today.
We know that thriving can be defined in many ways, yet it ultimately is what allows us all to feel fulfilled in our endeavors, excited in our future, and really irreplaceable in our contributions. Oftentimes, thriving and disability or a rare disease have a delicate relationship where it is difficult for both to coexist. But we've all seen it. We all know that disability makes things harder. It doesn't necessarily make things impossible. We all still have goals, big and small. Today, we want to examine what thriving looks like to these individuals that have joined us and encourage everybody watching and listening and viewing to find your stride and thrive in all the areas important to you and to your loved ones. Let's start with the brief introduction of all of our panelists. If you all don't mind, I'm going to call you by name. And of course, we want a high-level overview of who you are and what brings you on the panel today. So let's start with Chris Schlechte, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Chris Schlechte. I live out in the Seattle area in Kirkland, home of Costco, as Sean is excited to learn. I am a principal software engineer working at Microsoft. I have limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. I have the kind of traditional background of computer science, going through the University of Washington, doing some different internships. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Amanda, I'm going to throw it to you.
Thank you, Sean. So my name's Amanda Becker. I live in Massachusetts and I have a 19-year-old son with Duchenne. I also have a 21-year-old daughter, and I would argue which is harder, raising a son with Duchenne or a teenage daughter. So I've been in the community. I volunteer for a number of the different charities. I serve on the board for the Hope for Gus Foundation, as well as the J.B. Keys Foundation. And I've volunteered for Jett, as well as the Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy. And I'm grateful to be a part of this amazing episode.
Well, we're excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us and bringing your parent perspective to the discussion today. Colin, I'm going to throw it your way if you're ready.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Hi, I'm Colin Worth. I'm a 29-year-old living with Duchenne. I just turned 29 earlier this month. I'm a Duchenne patient advocate. I've been involved with Parent Project. I'm on the Adult Advisory Committee, currently serving as the president of the group. So I've been involved with this group since 2016. It's currently a group of around 50 individuals living with Duchenne and Becker. So it's a big group. I've been involved with Jett Foundation as well, as gone to Camp Promise a few years. So it's a great experience. I've gotten so if you haven't heard about it, definitely check it out. It's a fun and exciting opportunity. I'm also I have a background in IT, and I work for a small marketing firm where I live. Work part-time from home on the computer doing mostly web design. So, and also in addition to that, I'm heavily involved as a patient advocate in the Duchenne community. So yeah, excited to be here.
Awesome, Colin. Thank you, and happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Napper, we're going your way next.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Yeah, my name is Tress Snapper. I also live out in the Seattle area, not quite as close to Costa or Schlechte, but it's commutable. I am a graphic designer, illustrator. I run my own clothing business. I have spinal muscular atrophy, and I've been doing Camp Promise through Jett Foundation for several years now, and yeah, that's me.
You know, Colin and Napper, you both mentioned Camp Promise, and I've always heard great things about Camp Promise. Alexa and team, can I come sometime. I'll hang out. I'll wash the dishes after
There is
breakfast.
no age
or-
limit. You are
Oh,
always welcome.
I've always heard fantastic things. So
Let's do it.
Napper and Colin, thank you for pointing that out and sharing a little bit about that.
I'm the relative old person that still goes to camp, so you're completely
Okay.
going.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nice. Love it.
Napper, thanks so much for your introduction. That brings us to last but not least, I think probably the youngest today. So, Race, we've saved that prestigious position for you. Do you mind sharing who you are?
Sure. I'm Race Martinez. I'm 19 and I'm currently going to college majoring in architecture. And I also just recently ordered my car too. I have a brother with muscular dystrophy, and I also recently went to Camp Promise last year, and it's a pretty fun place to be.
I love it.
To be treated like an adult. So that's cool.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Thank you, Race. So, you just ordered a car. I
Yeah.
assume not a Hot Wheels, like
No.
something you're going to get behind the wheel and go out on public roads.
Yeah.
You have all mentioned some pretty incredible feats, in my opinion. Even just going to college with our challenges and holding down our job and creating your own businesses and driving your uncle, all of this. You guys are all thriving, and I'm so excited to dig into all of this a little bit today. Race, I'm going to start with you. Can you talk to us about driving? There are probably a lot of 19-year-olds watching right now, or parents of people that are getting close to that driving age. How in the world do you make driving work?
Well, so I'll tell you how I did it. So first, obviously I went to driving school, the written test and stuff. And so there's a place in Arizona where I went called Driving to Independence. And so they evaluate you, they let you know what kind of controls you need, whether you need a joystick, hand controls, whatever. And so they do that. You do some training and stuff, and they take you to like a church parking lot near their office. You drive around in there, and then once you're ready, they have you turn into the road and you drive around everywhere. Every day's different. They always make sure you're doing the right thing. If you're about to crash or whatever, they'll hit the brake or whatever. And
Did they hit the brake very much for you?
yeah. I mean, we messed around a lot too in the parking lot. I'd go and slam on the brakes and make her jump forward, and we had
Nice.
a lot of fun. But so yeah, they do that. Depending on how good you're getting, they'll let you know if you need to come back, or if you're ready. Once you're ready, they have you go home. You start getting ready to be evaluated for your vehicle. Then you schedule an appointment. They'll measure your chair, measure the vehicle, figure out what kind of modifications they need. And after that, they send a prescription letting whoever is converting the vehicle, letting them know what they need to do to it. Then after they do that, you get ready to pay for it. The way I did it too is most states have like government agencies that'll help you pay for it. Here it's called DVR, Department of Vocational Rehab, and you go there and you can schedule an appointment there, and they can figure out how they're going to help you. And so they paid for some of my training. I paid for the first time. Nobody could probably afford that without help. So if you all need help, try to see if you have a place like that in your state.
Right.
They paid for part of my vehicle too. They paid for about 150,000. That was for the controls, the ramp, the everything like that. And then I paid for just the vehicle, just the car. So that was about 49. So
So, Race, can you tell us like what kind of controls do you use? I think it's really telling or illustrative to other people when we can imagine ourselves, right? Like there might have been a point where you couldn't imagine yourself driving, but you do. And so how do you actually do it? Like what did the controls look like?
Yeah, so when they evaluated me, I was too weak to hold my arms up, so I can't use the hand controls. So they did a joystick. It's kind of like your chair joystick, like on your power chair or whatever. It's just like that. It's just, you know, a little bigger. And so I use that to go forward, steer, stuff like that. Then there's a computer screen that you use to park your car, to go in reverse, neutral, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then there's like a buzzer that you hold in your other hand. That's how you use turn signals. You can do the windows, you can do the windshield wipers, all kinds of stuff. It just depends on how they program it for you.
Yeah,
So whenever you get your car, you make sure and tell them how you want it programmed and stuff. And you
amazing.
can always have it changed, but you would
Yeah.
have to have someone do it or figure out how to do it. So that's how I do it.
Ray, thank you for explaining all that and giving us a good picture of it. Before we move on, I do want to ask you, you know, whether I think you or maybe even Kyle said it, but there comes a point in life where you think I'll never be able to drive. But
Right.
obviously you've overcome that. You're, I imagine, just months away from receiving your car and getting it down and being able to go to McDonald's whenever you want or whatever it may be. Can you share what are some of the barriers you had to overcome, whether it was mental or, you know, emotional, financial, one or two? What are some of the challenges that you immediately think of that maybe scared you for a minute and thought caused you to think this is not going to work?
Right. So one of the barriers was definitely an emotional barrier. I never thought I would ever do it. I thought there was no way there could ever be any kind of equipment that could allow me to drive. Because all I had ever heard about was the hand controls. I never knew there was such thing as a joystick. And so another thing was finding out how to figure out who does this kind of stuff. Like when you go on the internet, adaptive driving, handicap drive, whatever, right? Companies that sell vehicles come up, but no companies that train you how to drive or have equipment to show you or whatever, help you do the driver test don't pop up. So that was definitely a challenge. We finally came across Driving to Independence, which took years to find. So then I finally had scheduled an appointment where they evaluated me and stuff. And then the DVR or whatever any other state's called, here at DVR, it was really hard trying to get them to understand that the only place in the Southwest that does this kind of training is in Arizona, called Drive to Independence. At first they refused to pay for it because it wasn't in state. We finally got them to agree to it, but yeah, there's certainly a lot of different barriers trying to get through it. Bureaucracy is definitely a huge one.
Or you're,
It's a lot of perseverance.
Yes.
and it sounds like you're a testament to persevering and getting it done. Like I said,
Yeah.
your car is on the way, or vehicle is on
Yeah.
the way. Amanda, I want to bring you into the conversation. Similarly, you mentioned your son sounds like I do say 19. He's roughly Race's age and he's off into college. Can you talk about what life looked like for you, say, 8 years ago? Did you ever expect college to be a thing? And when that got closer, what did you all do to make it work?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. That's a great question. And I would say 8 years ago, no, I think as a parent, a Duchenne parent, you really don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, or a year is going to bring, or 5 years is going to bring. So I think emotionally it is hard as a parent to look ahead. You practice living in the moment and taking advantage of today. So it is harder, I think, with a rare disease to plan ahead because it's unpredictable. But I did prep Jack for going to college. I did said that that's our hope, but I also tried to make it clear that he would have choices. And so the transition from high school I found to be very, very challenging. I think as a parent, you're so invested in high school and trying to get through high school, and especially this generation where these kids now have all experienced some upheaval due to the pandemic.
Mm.
So the world changed so dramatically for them. And I think the college process changed for every kid, typical kids, as well as kids with disabilities. So it was very challenging. So it was kind of like diving into the unknown, searching for a college during the pandemic, post-pandemic. So yeah, it was a dive, and there's so many days that I start thinking to myself, how am I going to do this as a Duchenne parent? Every day I kind of wake up and say, well, how am I going to do this? So I just approached college and told Jack, we're just gonna, who knows how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna dive in and try to figure it out.
Yeah. That level of tenacity is so strong in the rare disease community. That's something that encourages me every day, because you're right. You never know what tomorrow's going to hold. And you wake up and you have no idea how you're going to make it through that day. But we're all testament of making it happen. Kyle, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just thinking that every single one of us has those things, no matter who you are, especially amplified by rare disease. Where we go, how the heck are we going to do this? And so I think part of what we want to do today is if people are asking themselves about that, and they are in a similar situation to you and Jack, where they're transitioning from high school to college and trying to move on in their lives and move forward, what are some of the hacks or, one or two things of advice that you would give to others that are in that situation where they're going, how do I get going on this?
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. I would say you have to really start early. And a lot of kids might be looking at college when they're starting to think about it when they're a junior, certainly by their senior year. I think things, looking as early as you can. And I think shopping in person, doing the college tours in person. I think the colleges and universities are able to put up pretty good websites, and they always post the pictures of the most beautiful buildings. They don't show you the old dorms way in the back that were built in the 50s and nobody has renovated or probably even cleaned in the past few decades. So it was very eye-opening to look in person. And I think you really have to do your due diligence. The same way we shop for medical care or we shop for adaptive equipment, you really have to not be afraid to ask the questions and call the different departments on the campus, call the school nurse and set up a meeting with that person, set up a meeting with the disabilities office, and really get into the specifics of what your student or having your student participate in those type of self-advocacy meetings. Jack was fortunate to go to a high school where they really focused on training him in his self-advocacy skills. And I think training your high school student to have those self-advocacy skills and have those meeting skills before they get to college is huge, especially not being shy about saying, this is what I need. I think I looked at the overall physical access of the campuses, access to transportation systems. I would ask, does this university have a wheelchair van? Could you evacuate my son, or can you take my son on an orientation trip or the weekend outings? So it's heavy duty shopping to really get to know the campuses. I would also just say we struggled with Jack wanting to live on campus and wanting to live in a dorm. And to be honest, we were not able to pull that off. We're living in an off-campus apartment now, and there may be a chance for him to move onto campus once we gained more support. But I'm suggesting that as in retrospect, I didn't have those conversations until late into his senior year. And I think had I had those conversations in the junior year, we would have had a better chance of him having the supports necessary to live on campus. But I think I'd also recommend for the population of Duchenne parents who may be listening, or Duchenne high school students, the PCA piece for us was very challenging, and that was a challenging conversation to have with the colleges. Some were supportive of having peers be caregivers. Other colleges were very opposed to allowing us to advertise for PCAs or to promote the job title of a PCA. I was surprised even that a school with a nursing program wouldn't be more supportive and more open and more inclusive in promoting PCA support. We ran into a school of architecture that was located on the second and third floor, and they had no elevator. So just back to being able to see things with your own eyes, and it's good stuff when you're out there shopping and seeing all these things for yourself. It was a lot of fun.
There's
Thank you.
something coming to mind from your perspective and some thoughts that Ray shared. Everything takes so much time. Not impossible, but you've got to be aware and prepared to, it might take months, if not years and years, for things to come together. But my hope is for everybody up against a barrier, you keep going and you just chip away at it little by little. Colin, I would love to have you weigh in a little bit on the whole transition piece. You've done it yourself, but you also mentioned serving on committees and being a part of the parent programs available. So in your experience, what are some things for folks, whether it's the young individual transitioning into college or a job or adult life versus maybe a parent's perspective? What might you encourage or share with folks for them to be aware of?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and I definitely can agree with well, yeah, what Amanda was saying. I see there was a question. Oh, you answered that. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think well, a lot of the work we do in the group with Parent Project is to try to be an advice and a resource to other families going through that. I think that's the theme that I sense a lot of is the struggles with the transition from big transitions in life to college. And thankfully it's nice to have that resource. I know there's a lot more guys with Duchenne going to college, so that's great. And yes, hoping to provide that resource more and more to others to know that it is possible. And I think that's great. And I mean personally, I've always been a positive and open-minded person, so I've been I mean, transitions haven't been difficult for me. I mean, I know transitions are different for everybody. Obviously, it's different for us living with rare diseases. So, I think one thing is just to be open-minded and more easygoing with things has really been helpful to me. Just knowing that there are always going to be obstacles. I mean, everyone has obstacles in life, but definitely not getting discouraged by all of that, because you definitely can do that.
What is,
Yeah,
I think there's a common phrase, expect the best and plan for the worst or something to that effect. That's what I feel like you're saying right now.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
before I switch, I think one of the challenges with transitioning is that a lot of schools and communities aren't familiar with the resources.
Mhm.
So I was probably the only person in my area with a complex disability that was going to go off to college. So there weren't really people that knew of the resources that would be available. And a lot of the resources are kind of gated by turning 18, which makes it kind of a time crunch as you're getting ready to exit college or exit high school. So being aware that things like Department of Vocational Rehab's about there and able to pay for like schooling or aids while you're in classes for doing your homework in college, or that once you turn 18, you then become eligible for Social Security. And then with that, you can kind of unlock personal care aspects. But getting all that lined up is definitely a challenge.
Sakte, thanks for jumping in there. I will encourage the panel if you have something to add, no matter what the question is or who we direct it to, please, just like Chris did, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, and I wanted to note there was a question in the chat a few minutes ago about not being able to attend college due to whole circumstances, and I understand. Yeah, certainly. I mean, college, yeah, is a lot. It's a big effort. It's certainly not for everybody, but I mean, they're different. Yeah, obviously different ways. You don't have to go to college to be an active participant in society. You can still
Mm.
get a job. I mean, everyone's able to, yeah, participate whatever way you can. And I mean, there are other ways to do college. You don't have to live away at college. Like I myself went to community college locally, so it was just a commuting school. It was like a half-hour away from my home, so was able to had classes a couple days a week. So my mom was able to drive me to classes there. And you can also do online courses in college, and yeah, I think a lot of that, yeah, there's definitely the resources out there, but like I said, you don't have to attend college. You can still yeah, volunteer some ways in your community or work, yeah, just work small jobs here and there. So definitely.
I think you make a good point. College isn't required. Not everybody has to go, and some people don't want to go. Some people can't go. So there's plenty of opportunities even without that higher education.
But it's good to know what all your options are and that there's
That's true.
resources there to help you with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's 100 ways to do this stuff. And so, yeah, it's seeing everything and being able to understand that there are any number of different ways to do it and finding out what works for you. Wonderful.
Mhm, mhm.
I've known some people that have had kind of low expectations when they're in kind of middle school, high school. So they kind of just floated through the system and are now kind of kicking themselves, knowing that they've missed opportunities and like which they could have gone back and did things a bit differently.
Yeah. I think that happens to all of us with everything, but we truck forward and figure out what's next. Yeah.
Napper, I think we all want to hear your voice. So you talked about building a business. You have your own clothing company or business, whatever you might refer to it as. We'd love to know a little bit more about that. You built it yourself. What advice might you give other people that are interested in something long-term like that? How did you do it?
Yeah, so I was going to college and I did community college first, and then I was accepted to a four-year university as a transfer student. But at that point I'd done all my like general courses, and I was just pursuing the graphic design courses for my major. So to do that, I had to apply then to get into their art department, which I applied and I was denied. They get tons of applications there, and accept very few, so it's very hard to get in. During that time though, like I'd been working myself since high school, doing just freelance design jobs. At the time I was networking through MySpace. That's how old I am.
Wow.
So yeah,
Jeez.
I started out just like connected with like local DJs and stuff. Then you get covers made for their mixtapes or flyers for events they were working, and I
Wow.
designed those for them. Um, at the time, some of that was free, some of that was for a little bit of money, but kind of building my portfolio. And I said just networking, making connections. So I've been doing that for several years at that point. And I kind of just decided I was gonna reapply to school and just decided, no, I'm done. I'm just gonna keep working on my own. I'm already
Nice.
doing what I want to do. So why do I need to go to school if I'm already doing my career?
Yeah.
So I kept working freelance for a while, and I got a lot of jobs designing shirts. People need shirts for different events and businesses and occasions and stuff. And I just really enjoyed doing it. I thought it was really cool to like see people like my artwork so
Yeah.
much that they wanted to wear it. I thought that was awesome. So yeah, so to kind of like better serve my customers as well as just be able to like have the freedom to do some of my own ideas and creations rather than always other people's ideas. I applied for a business license, a reseller permit. I built my own website, which I'd never done before. That was a whole learning curve. But like, you can learn anything on YouTube nowadays.
Sure.
Like, if you want a new skill, you can go find it. If you put some time in on it, you can learn anything. And that's what I did. I learned how to build an e-commerce website, and it worked. And that was a big step. And yeah, now I'm able to provide clothing for my customers that come along. And
That's fantastic.
I even have been doing I've been designing the Can't Promise t-shirts for several years now.
Nice.
Yeah.
How many of you are wearing one of Napper's shirts today? Napper, I assume that, you know, whether it's you or me or any other, you know, quote unquote, normal, able bodied person, not everything always shows up on a silver platter. You know, there are days that are hard, days you've got to really fight or adjust or pivot for what you want. So I'm assuming that it hasn't come super easy for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Can
I'd
you
say
talk about how
yeah,
you overcame the hard things?
yeah, in fact, so I didn't originally start my own business. Actually, I partnered with um actually two different people at two different times, starting businesses with them. Mainly because I didn't think I could do it by myself. There's some like physical aspects of, picking up shirts from distributors, taking them to print shops, mailing them, things like that, that I didn't think I could do myself. I thought I needed a partner to handle those aspects of the business. And that was fine. Like, but for them, like they had other jobs, other careers. So what we were doing was kind of a side gig for them. I was always trying to make it my, primary focus. So things just didn't quite work out with them, and we just got kind of deprioritized for them. And so we ended up going our separate ways, which is fine. We're still on good terms and everything. But I really wanted to find a way to do it myself, to have more control over the decisions we were making, and just be able to kind of handle things my way. And I found some services that do the printing and shipping themselves. It's not a free service, so it comes out of my my profit margins, but that's fine for me. I'm not splitting it with anybody else either.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, like I say, you search hard enough, if you're determined enough, you can typically find an answer or solution. It's not always ideal, but you can make
Yeah.
things work.
Sure.
With this podcast, just relating to starting something and keeping it going, Sean and I have been going for several years now, but we always have each other to lean on or yell at or blame. No, but my point is that I just wanted to, it's really commendable to keep this going on your own. I think, one of the things that keeps Sean and I going is that we can lean on each other. And it sounds like you're doing a lot of this stuff, just figuring it out, and getting the help you need to get this done, but it's all you. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've also had, support from my family and friends, community. A lot of most of my businesses actually come from word of mouth. Like, honestly, I haven't really done any self-promotion since I was on MySpace. It's all word of mouth. So like friends that, worked in different places and stuff, they've referred their businesses to come to me to provide their shirts. There's a big hospital here that I do most of their jackets and stuff for. So big customers are very helpful in my business. So having that community and network come to me is really helpful.
Great.
Awesome. Your hard work is paying off.
Trying to keeping the lights on.
Shlakti, it sounds like you've worked pretty hard in your life too. You mentioned your job, and I forget exactly what the title is, but I feel like it's one of those, it's a company that everybody recognizes. So congratulations on your accomplishments in your work life. Can you
Thanks.
talk a little bit about maybe did that come easy? Like how do you have this stable and strong career?
It's definitely been a lot of work. I've been at Microsoft now for about 15 and a half years.
Oh,
And I was an intern while in college and got hired on from that. A lot of it is early on I kind of figured out what kind of setups work for me. Office location, like what I would need for desks, accommodations like that. The cool thing with big tech companies is a lot of things that would be traditionally considered accommodations are just kind of the norm and good for everyone.
mm,
Things like flexible working hours, being able to take time off, like need to go get a camp form signed from the doctor. But there's definitely ebbs and flows to kind of the work that I end up doing. Sometimes projects might take a lot more time commitment, do a little extra work, but it balances out over time. College, I very much had the typical experience where I'm also a terrible procrastinator. Where I'd put off projects and then basically go live in our computer science lab down there with the other students working on projects. I decided I wanted to look at whatever opportunities I had for internships. One of the cool ones I did was as an intern with the government, and I actually worked in DC at one summer.
Hmm.
So I was first applying, it was kind of didn't really have a solid plan on how that would work, but managed to figure out kind of like I convinced one of my aides to come with me, live half the summer in DC, hang out, get the intern experience there. Then I got my sister to help with kind of some of the other months. She wasn't thrilled at first, but we made it work. But good experience interning there. Lived on campus, hiring local college students as interns or as PCAs. Yeah.
So, Chris, Schlechte, with all of this, you know, the whole journey to where you're at right now, you've told us before that you approach things with a growth mindset. And that sounds pretty good, but what exactly do you mean by approaching things with a growth mindset, especially challenges?
So really it's you first start by making your best effort at whatever thing you're trying to attempt to do. And then as things go kind of wrong, you have to take a step back, realize like what went well, what you need to change, and kind of how you had planned for that in the future. So that could be something like, I'm going to a conference, like, what do I need to make sure that I have in place so that I know that I can have a good experience going to this conference? Something like, oh, be willing to ask somebody for help with lunch, or if that's provided, or getting materials electronically beforehand, things of that nature.
So it's kind of an iterative process then, like basically figuring out what doesn't work and then avoiding that in the future.
Yeah, or
Pretty
the things that do work, kind of doubling down on those and making sure.
Yeah, I like it.
But yeah, continual iteration and kind of improvement as you progress.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Amanda, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on this particular topic because you know I feel like for most of us here, it's all we're in a sense self-motivated. If we get down and face a hardship, we deal with it in our own way, in emotionally and whatever else. But as a parent, when your son's up against a roadblock and he's you know, the growth mindset isn't coming easy, I imagine that weighs heavy on a mom. So how do you encourage your son, or what kind of principles come to mind when you talk or you think about the growth mindset and going after whatever it is you want?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it definitely is emotional as a parent, and you see there's so much hope, and then when you encounter a problem, it's so disappointing. And I guess we've learned to try not to dwell on the problems because, as everybody in this group knows, I mean, things can go sideways so many ways in the disability world on any given day. You just don't know what problems you're going to hit. I think our family really focuses on having a sense of humor and just having to laugh about the stuff that happens. And for example, Jack, this is the story he wanted me to tell. I said, Jack, what do you want to share? And his math teacher happened to say in front of his college class, Jack, if you sit there, you're a fire hazard. And I was like, wow, like I didn't realize people, would say stuff like that, right, to him, in sort of a enlightened world of college. But you know, you laugh those things off. I mean, everybody has to learn, you know, the appropriate language to speak to somebody who might use a wheelchair or might be non-ambulatory. And I said, Jack, you know, just go up to her and tell her that, you know, is not really, you know, appropriate. So there's just funny things that happen and you just have to laugh. I mean, you can't dwell on those negative things. And I think when there's disappointment, we just try not to dwell on it. We just try to say, okay, well, like Chris was talking about, what worked well, what didn't work well, and let's just try again. Tomorrow's a new day. And I also, Chris, just wanted to mention, I applaud what you've done with the internships. And that's a great way for high school kids to get to try something out. I noticed someone in the chat mentioned their son wanting to be a vet. You know, there's so many awesome pre-college programs out there now. The colleges really want to market to people in the summer and get you to sign up for programming. And there's so many things for high school kids to try anything for a week, and or if they want to do pre-med, they have a week of pre-med or a week of biotech or a week of computer engineering. So there's so many opportunities for the kids. And I think that also speaks to the disappointment, Kyle, that you were asking me about. We found trying to find a summer job with Jack's status in high school, it was more challenging. You know, typical kids were going out getting the jobs of mowing lawns and bagging groceries and being a bus person at the you know, at the restaurant. And for Jack, those opportunities just weren't there. So we had to really think outside the box. What could he do to be productive over the summer? And I think those internships and those pre-college programs are an amazing opportunity. It opens the world to the kids as opposed to what the parent might have as an idea.
You make a good point. And I love how, Chris, you said double down on what works and
Yep.
your strengths there. That's kind of the
I'd also say that as a parent, it's important to start like pushing your kids to self-advocate and kind of take over that aspect. Especially since high school is kind of even earlier, it's kind of a safe environment for them to start advocating for themselves. Where in college it completely shifts, where they don't necessarily forced into like doing IEPs and things for you, where you have to actually go to the school and say like, these are the things I need, like set it up for me.
sure. Great point. Colin, looked like maybe you were about ready to share a thought.
Yeah, and I've seen a few questions floating around a theme about how younger individuals like with Duchenne getting motivated and experiences. I think what's been really motivated and why I've really pivoted to being involved in the community and the work that I do with the Adult Advisory Committee, I think it's been really the community has been so supportive to me. So I really kind of want to give back to a community that's been supportive to me. I think networking with everyone on this panel and many other individuals with Duchenne, I think just knowing, I think having that resource of individuals who can relate to what you're going through is really been helpful and certainly beneficial to me. So I know it can be hard. Yeah, it's definitely hard, harder for some, but definitely I think even I mean just listening into this conversation today is a great start, just to realize that, you know, all of us on here are doing great things, and it certainly is possible. I think, you can definitely get into that mindset of thinking, oh, I'm the only one dealing with this. So definitely try to connect with others. I mean, it's I can definitely understand it's harder for younger individuals. I mean, it can be awkward just if you talk one-on-one, but I think even just sitting in the room listening to a group really kind of the saturation eventually hopefully can sink in. But yeah, try to yeah, I think having that mindset and knowing that you're not alone is helpful. So definitely yeah, it might be hard, but kind of try to push your sons or for that matter, anyone with a or as a parent with a child with a rare disease, try to push them. I mean, it's hard. And also I think I've benefited. Although it was hard at first, going out of my comfort zone has actually been pretty beneficial. So
Yeah, that isolation mindset is serious, when you're up against a barrier or a diagnosis or whatever it may be. We all think we're the only ones. And
yeah.
sure, maybe to some degree, certain circumstances are pretty lonely or pretty unique. But generally speaking, there's so much similarity. And when you can connect with the other folks that have either experienced that or something similar, and they're finding ways to work around it, that alone can be encouraging and can also help jumpstart some motivation.
Yeah, and one thing I will add to that and say is we've all been in those dark times, struggling times. So yeah, not to be and like Amanda was saying, I agree. We're kind of a lot like that in our family, try not to dwell on the negative things too much. But I think
Yeah.
definitely all of us has been in that dark spot. So don't be afraid to reach out to give
For
help.
sure.
Yeah,
to
I
other
would agree with
resources.
that. I agree with you, Colin, and I was just thinking that from the parent perspective, my daughter was older than Jack, so I'd like to say she was a typical teenager. But that gave me perspective because earlier in the diagnosis, I would want to blame everything on the diagnosis. I would really focus on all the things we couldn't do, or these challenges were because of, or the disappointments were because of the disease. But then when I looked at what my daughter went through, I'm like, being a teenager is so hard on the best of days. So I think when Jack reached that age, I was able to say, it's not just Duchenne that's disappointing. You're a teenager and your friends let you down and you didn't get invited. And those things happen to typical kids too. So just trying to keep your chin up and remembering that, like you said, you're not alone and it's not all about the diagnosis.
Yeah, that's what I think is great for like being able to attend. Yeah, I attended MDA camp when I was younger. That was a great experience too. And yeah, definitely shout out to Camp Promise. That's really, a great supportive week.
Yeah, in the chat window mentioned a couple of people asking about like virtual communities and kind of networking. And like Jett hosts some events for everyone, like trivia nights and kind of age specific activities, whether that's like doing a tour of the zoo virtually or things like that. But there's also different communities for people with MD, like within Facebook and things like that. It's helpful to see that you're not alone in some of the common experiences that others face. But also, it's just great for resources and networking.
Yeah, so Race, I want to bring you back into the conversation here, especially on this mindset thing. There are a lot of challenges, of course, with just driving, but also, it sounds like you're going to school for architecture. And so I just wanted to ask you about, is there a mindset in this conversation that you use when you come up against challenges like with driving or with school or whatever's in your life?
Yeah, so I guess just figuring out what works. One of the challenges I have every day when I go to school are the doors, because sometimes the handicap button's not working, or even the doors to get into the classroom don't have a button. And so, I have to open them, or when I get out, I have to, just keep opening them. So one of the things I do is when I leave, these doors, they don't really you don't have to turn the handle to open them. You can just push them. So I just jam my chair into it. And I'm like, if I break your door, you pay for it. I mean, I don't really care if I break it. And same thing when I open it, I use my chair. My chair, I guess, is a really good tool. As long as I can pull the door open a little bit, I can stick my footrest in there and just jam it open.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a good example, I feel like, when
Right.
dealing with
Using
challenges.
the resources that you have. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
it.
So, I mean, just for the fun of it, what I'm hearing you say, Race, is be a pit bull. And
Yeah, it's pretty
Napper,
fun.
I've heard you say YouTube. You can learn anything. And Colin, you're just always happy. And so I haven't quite figured out what's going on with Amanda and Schlechte yet, but that's my descriptors for Race, Colin, and Napper. I've got to work on Amanda and Schlechte.
I'm very
Really?
much the FIO, just figure it out,
Mhm.
and then
Nice. Okay.
fake it until you make it.
Yeah, I like that.
I like it.
Very cool. Well, I've got a question for anybody that feels so moved at the, right off the bat. How would you say rare disease has changed your outlook? And you can, maybe it's one particular season of life or an outlook that's always been a part of your DNA. It's totally up to you. But how has, as you've aged or as your child has aged, how do you think rare disease has adjusted your outlook?
So I'd say growing up, of course, it's difficult kind of as you lose abilities, things you could once do are challenging. And that gets really frustrating. You kind of get sucked into that. But as I grew older, uh, it's afforded me some opportunities that I might not have otherwise had,
Mm.
either through internships that were targeting like people with disabilities, college program for designed to help like with that transition. Some of the people that I've met have been involved with other like business disability advocacy programs. So I've had the opportunity to be like guest speaker and travel to different conferences. Through a disability related program, I was able to go to Tokyo and visit a sister program there. So I've had other opportunities. The things I've done have been different than say what I might have done like had I not had a disability, but I don't think it's worse. Like I've done some cool things.
Most importantly, you got to meet me.
Yeah. You wouldn't even know Napper.
Yeah, I think
Napper.
that's
Go ahead. Colin, go. What about you?
yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I always say, I mean, it's a community that we wouldn't wish upon anyone, but I think because of my condition and yeah, that yeah, it's met so many amazing people. It's been a great community to be a part of. It's the community when you don't want to be a part of, but if you are, you're happy to be a part of. So I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
As
Think-
far as like, I saw you went down, go ahead.
No, I kind of interrupted here. So yeah, you can finish.
Oh, so I was gonna say that, as far as like, outlook on life being affected, I know like myself and probably others in this community have lost a lot of people to
Mhm.
muscular dystrophy. I know I've come very, very close multiple times to to crossing that bridge. So I think I know it's given me and probably others a real like appreciation for life. Where like, where other people might have their bucket lists and whatnot that kind of sit on the shelves. Like I'm much more active about trying to check these things off my bucket list. Not waiting till tomorrow, you know, like going after things today. But yeah, and not like I expect to pass away or anything anytime soon, but you know, it makes you want to live life now and not wait for tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was gonna say there. Yeah, definitely, and agree with what Amanda was saying. We kind of live things a day at a time. Yeah, take things as they come. Yeah, and try not to look ahead too much and dwindle on. Just live life to the fullest. I think more people can benefit from that. I mean, well,
Yeah.
I mean, we think we're having a short lifespan. I mean, seems like a lot of people. I mean, it can happen to any of us, no matter if you're disabled or not. You can get into anyone can have a significant health problem or get into a serious accident. We never know what tomorrow brings, regardless of what our abilities are. So I think, and also to that, I think it's good to just focus on what you can do, not, definitely not try to get bogged down in what you can't do. I mean, even though there there can seem like there are a lot of things you can't do, there's still a lot you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I love this concept of living every day like a gift. And, you know, if we think of it like that, gosh, it's hard to think about it like this, but you know, maybe part of our disease or our condition is a gift because it forces us to view life that way sometimes, and it opens the door to make us be able to see life a little more like that. So I really like that you guys point that out.
I
Yeah.
will mention, I know we're getting close. We still have plenty of time, but I do want to just remind everybody viewing and watching, we are going to allow a few minutes of Q&A at the end, so we can either go through what's coming up on screen, or if anybody's coming up with questions now, get ready, because we're probably only 5 to 10 minutes away from opening the floor up. But I do want to pose another question to the group. And Amanda, I would love to hear your perspective here. And you can talk about it from either your son's point of view or your angle. But, you know, we talked about goal setting and realizing someday, okay, I'm not dead yet. So what can I do today to achieve what's important to me? When it comes to setting goals for yourself or your family, what is your process? And what might you recommend for other parents or other families? You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, and that kind of sums it up right there. That is a tough question. We kind of fly by the seat of our pants in my family. We have, back to the first question about how it's changed your life, I think appreciation for amazing people and meeting people and being able to grab an opportunity when you see it, living in the moment. I think those are my goals. I've changed from more traditional goal setting of you need to go to college, you need to get a job, you need to have a credit card, or, these typical parenting things, to being more thoughtful, more appreciative, and like you're saying, expanding your network and meeting these amazing people that are in the rare disease community. So if anything, I think I've lost track of a rational goal setting process.
Fair.
But you just want to be productive every day. You want to maximize every day. And I've tried to raise my kids to take advantage of things that are around them and not put it off, and value the folks around you and learn what you can from the people that are here today.
That's huge.
I think it's
I'm
kind of the same as kind of a mentorship role. Like, do you want the person to be able to know like what their goals are? And then you're there to kind of support like helping achieve that rather than like pushing the tiger parent, like you must do this, become a doctor type thing.
Napper, what's your perspective on setting a goal and getting after it? What tips or tricks might recommend for others?
I mean, I think it all starts like finding out what you're interested in. You find your interests and you try to find a way to make a living off of it. Um, hopefully you can do both of those things. If you can't, then you do find a way to make a living and find a way to do that interest on the side or something. As far as like goal setting though, I mean, it's hard to inspire goal setting. I think it really helps being in this sort of a community where we see other people that are a lot like us that are achieving things. Just seeing that should help to kind of self-motivate. I grew up with a very smart, overachieving older sister who also had the same disability. So like the expectations were kind of there that I was not even capable of living up to, but I'm
Can
still,
confirm.
trying to get as close as I can. So, even you don't have that older sister right there in the house, being around other people, like, so me and Shelty are friends, and Shelty's obviously really smart and overachieving, so that motivates me, like, hey, I gotta do something to try to keep up, like,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep.
like it.
That's the value of conversations like this, right? Or your weekly check-in group or monthly virtual meetings. You see and hear how other people are figuring it out and making it work. And it might be different for you, but there's some encouragement to figure it out yourself and continue putting in the work and finding fulfillment at whatever level and whatever definition that might be for you. Chris, I noticed, or Schlechte, you unmuted. You have something to add?
Yeah, I've noticed it's gotten a lot better with finding kind of mentors or role models, especially kind of in the visible public.
Mhm.
Like when I was growing up in high school, really the only person I had to look towards was like Stephen Hawking as like your one key figure. But now you're starting to see it more of like disability representation in media, whether that's like fashion, TV shows, things like that. So we're starting to progress there, but getting to know other people and kind of what they're doing in life and things is good.
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, I guess kind of, just thinking to summarize here, I guess kind of the big theme of this discussion today is find your tribe, find your passion.
Yep. Absolutely. Learning. I always think of it as, learning from others, and we're able to use what we learn, take the good things and leave all those stuff that does not apply or that we don't see valuable in our lives. So yeah, that's wonderful. Thanks for mentioning that, Colin.
Grace, I'm going to throw one more question to you before we get into Q&A. As the young one on the panel today, I think a lot of people in our world look at you and me as we roll around in our wheelchair or the walker, or they see us struggling with the door or taking a drink of a soda at lunch, and they think, wow, poor guy, how in the world can they be happy? And I would love to hear your perspective on everything you're up against, but also going to school and getting a car, how in the world do you find happiness despite your disability?
I guess I'm just happy with everything I'm doing just because I never thought I'd ever do it. So I'm like, I can really ignore people. I'm really good at ignoring people. So I have a twin brother. I feel like I have to ignore people all day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I just ignore people, just get through. A lot of times I feel like I'm better than other people too. I mean, I just think like that. I mean, in school, we do peer review and stuff like that. You know, you read each other's papers, tell each other what's wrong with it. And, you know, I look at what they do and I feel like I do it better. So I don't know. I guess I'm just good at ignoring people and feeling like I can do better than them, even though I'm in a wheelchair. So
I think the mentality of I can still do it is probably a big piece of that.
yeah, that's a great motivator.
Amanda, how about you? You said your family is big on humor, but how do you yourself, and from Jack's point of view, how do you stay happy?
It does go back to humor. I have to say, my husband he's a funny guy. That's what he brings to the table. And sometimes I say that's all he brings to the table. You know, and I think the theme here really is just appreciation. There's no other choice. I mean, the diseases or the setbacks can get you down. We've had a few close calls in our family. Jack had a severe go around with COVID. It was very scary. And so I think when you've had a few moments like that, you just realize that's not where you want to spend your days, and that's not where you want your mind to spend your time. And I think all of us on this call and all of us in the rare disease community, you learn the value of time, and you have to think about, how do I want to spend my time? What do I want to spend my time thinking about? And there's only so much time in a day. So I just value every day, and you know, the happiness that you get from meeting people like on this call, or going to the conferences, or networking within the community, it is contagious. So I applaud everybody who mentioned going to the conferences and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone a little bit, and you made amazing people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, think about that mentality of life is short. I think helps all of us keep things in a somewhat healthy perspective, and we just go about it a different way. Shalaki, I love the way you said FIO. I've never heard it that way, but you just figure it out in the moment, and still find ways to be proud of who you are and what you're able to do despite your setbacks. Well, folks, we're about 10 minutes away from when we said we would let everybody go. So I do want to open the floor for some Q&A. So to help with that, I'm going to invite Alexa to come back, and we can help kind of get through some of those questions that folks have been presenting throughout the panel.
I've got to say that our panelists are doing a very good job of multitasking. So
They are. I can't
really
even do that.
are.
Good job, guys.
So they answered a lot of these questions. But I do think just, you know, overall, I'd love to hear, you know, Colin and Amanda's perspective on some of these. So, you know, I think that, and, you know, like we were talking about, there can be difficulty when losing abilities that you've had in the past. So, Amanda, I would love to hear how you handle, you know, the emotions and the behavior and the anger that Jack may have experienced during that transition time.
It's a great question. I think personally, I early on tried to network as best I could in the community, and a lot of people are very gracious in sharing their time and their perspective and their wisdom with me. and prepared me pretty well for transition times. And I think that's a key is to just accept that you're going to go through some transitions. And Jack didn't have a lot of anger about the transitions. A lot of, the ups and downs of childhood are typical. So again, I think I said that before, I always try to separate what's, a disease process versus what is, typical childhood behavior and disappointment. I think in our case, his school was very supportive and Jack went to a specialized school. So his learning actually, I see a lot of younger kids who are not in a good fit academically and educationally, and that causes a lot of frustration and behaviors in Duchenne. So I think having a good supportive school program can eliminate some of the frustrations that the kids, it might perceive as being frustrated with their disability, because the kids learn to live with what their abilities are, and they can do quite well if they're in a supportive environment. So I think, and I also tried to keep my emotions separate from what Jack might be feeling. He has a right to feel the way he feels, and I didn't want to project how I might be feeling onto him. I would say stress there's a lot of stress, and any family managing a rare disease, you're trying to keep the stress level of everybody down. And somebody said to me early on, just appreciate that somebody in your family, they might be having their worst day. They might be totally overwhelmed emotionally, and somebody else might be extremely happy, having a great day. So just try to give each person in the family their own space to feel the way that they want to feel. And I think in Duchenne, some of it is pain. There was a lot of falling, and that hurt. So some of those things, you have every right to feel angry if you fell down and hurt yourself. You'd feel sad, and that's a normal thing. So keeping these are normal feelings that people have.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the one thing is, yeah, definitely to surround yourself around. Yeah, I think it's good to put yourself, if they're struggling in school, make sure they have the resources they need and are not, yeah, they're not doing stuff that's not, yeah, that's not right. So I think, yeah, definitely, and also yeah, I definitely think don't be afraid to reach out for help with it. I mean, not just our community, but if you need mental health counseling, that can be really helpful too. So yeah, not to feel like you have to deal with all that. Yeah, definitely not being afraid to reach out for help if you need that.
Absolutely. If there are any other questions, please feel free to put them in either the chat or the Q&A, and I'm going to check to see if there are any on Facebook. So we do have a question from Facebook from each panelist. What's next? What's your next goal in this chapter? I'll start with Napper. You've already gone skydiving. What's the next goal?
I don't think we'll be skydiving again. But there's a lot of things I still want to do. I want to continue to grow my business. There's lots of places I want to travel to. I've been to 4 or 5 different countries and probably half the states. I really want to go to Spain. That's on the top of my bucket list. As I did skydiving, I've debated bungee jumping, but that might be off the table now.
Please
But,
no.
I might look into parasailing, which is like fun, and I might want to go paragliding again. I've done that before. I might do it again. And yeah, as I just keep growing my business, there's some personal illustration projects I'm potentially working on. We'll see how they go. Yeah. Yeah, maybe find some ladies along the way.
yeah, I think I would probably say pretty much the same. Yeah, go to keep on, doing what I'm doing. I travel a lot as well, planning our next trip to Italy in May. So excited about that. Yeah, always trying to plan for, the next adventure.
I've been getting more into outdoor activities. With a wheelchair, it's kind of hard to stay kind of like active and outdoors. I found some different programs or ways to do that. I'm planning an upcoming hunting trip, which should be awesome. Going out to Wyoming. So I'm looking forward to that. And then potentially watercraft. We'll see.
That's probably the power of Instagram or social media. You see other people doing crazy things like hunting or skydiving that you never thought you could do. You're like, wait a minute, if they can do it, there has to be a way I can do it.
And do your homework with the skydiving. I broke my leg doing it, so what are your options?
Well, I think a lot of they're getting a lot more assistive technology that's allowing people to get out and do more.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to take somebody in a chair and bomb them down a ski slope. Like, the thing just needs to be made. Then now you're seeing like different ski parks. They're setting up like adaptive skiing programs.
Yeah, they just had one in Arizona
Yeah, I saw
last
that.
weekend, so it's possible. And I am gonna ask Kyle and Sean, what's next on your goal, your bucket list?
Well, it's a perfect timing because so Sean and I are planning a trip with 5 other people, and we are gonna ride our trikes and they're gonna ride bikes to the top of the highest paved road in the world. It's in the Himalayas. It's over 19,000 feet, and I'm getting nervous just talking about it. So yeah, no, that's our next goal.
Are you riding up or down?
Both, hopefully.
Yeah.
Wow.
That sounds awesome. Good luck.
That's
That'll
awesome.
Thank you.
That's this summer.
Nice.
Yep. Only a few
Race
months
them
away.
How long does the bike ride last?
6 days we'll
Wow.
be on the road. It'll be like 200 miles, starting at 11,000 feet and going to over 19,000. So it's gonna be gnarly.
Yeah.
Race Amanda and Jack subsequently.
On Jack's mind is spring break, so
I
it's in
bet,
2
I
weeks,
bet.
and like I said, we fly by the seat of our pants, so I have no idea where we'll end up. I think SeaWorld's probably on the radar, Universal Studios could be on the radar. Who knows, so, yeah,
Spring break in Florida.
Miami
can't
Beach.
Go wrong.
right?
Yep. Yep. Love it.
Kyle, Sean, are you gonna be filming your trip? I'm just curious.
We're good. Yeah, we're working on having a film crew on the trip with us. So we'll see how it turns out.
Awesome. I think that's all the questions, so I will let if there are any other questions, please go ahead, and there is a survey after this, so please fill it out. We can only improve if we get the feedback that we need to improve, and we hope that you all will join us next year again for our next panel discussion. But for right now, please go ahead and fill out the survey. We also do have goal planners left, so please feel free to reach out to myself at alexa@jettfoundation.org if you were not registered and still do want one of those as supplies last. And then I also encourage you to submit videos of all of the things that you guys have done in terms of goals that you've reached and what you're doing in the community. We would love to highlight them throughout this month. So please go ahead and submit those as well. You can submit those to me at alexa@jettfoundation.org as well. And I just want to thank our amazing panelists for being here, sharing their experiences, sharing their lives with us and their stories. You know, it really, sharing knowledge and sharing experiences only makes us stronger and helps along the way. So I appreciate all of you so much. Kyle, Sean, thank you again for coming back for another year. We are so lucky to have you in our space. So thank you so much, Colin, Chris, Napper, Amanda, Race. Thank you. Thank you for being here. To all of the people who joined us today, thank you again for taking the time out of your day to watch and learn and also hear from these amazing individuals. So we will see you throughout the year, and we will also see you again for WD and Rare Disease Day in 2025, which is crazy to say. So thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day.
Hey, Carol.
Thanks.
you.
See ya.
Be well.
Bye.